with a presentation from Senator Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I trust I have your permission, sir, to speak from a seat other than my own.
Yes, you do.
Mr. President, I rise this afternoon in support of the proposed amendment to the National Housing Trust Act to facilitate the drawdown of funds over the next few years in support of the national budget and the fiscal interest of the Jamaican people. For me and right-thinking Jamaicans, Mr. President, this debate is not to be framed as one of deprivation, depriving the NHD of funds, but rather it is one that is to be framed insofar as facilitation and practical fiscal navigation, literally helping Jamaica and Jamaicans recover from the ravages and displacement wrought by the passage of Hurricane Melissa back in October, while at the same time, Mr. President, moderating the burden on the Jamaican people by not extracting more from them in terms of new taxes beyond that which is reasonable and necessary. Mr. President, my support for the bill before us is predicated on three fundamental prongs. The first, the understanding that actuaries advise that the NHD budget support will in no way imperil the overall financial health of the trust. Two, the recognition that imposing taxes on the backs of already burdened Jamaicans working assiduously to recover from Hurricane Melissa-related challenges beyond what was levied would not only be unreasonable and ill-advised, but downright unconscionable. And the third, Mr. President, the appreciation that extending NHD budget support in the prevailing circumstances is not only good economic policy, but is prudent at this point in time. All this aside, Mr. President, it is the matter of demand-side measures versus supply-side measures that interest me most. I will return to this core issue, but firstly, let me use a moment or two to treat with some of the observations, and I would dare say, narrative that would contradict the prevailing realities that has been peddled both in and out of this debate so far by the members opposite. To be clear-eyed about a basic fact, replacing the budgetary support provided through the NHD drawdown and saddling Jamaicans with either more taxes or more debt by way of increased government borrowing, or worse, slashing vital government services and capital expenditure on critical national investments at this historically challenging time is straight up not an option, not feasible, Mr. President. The question to the members opposite, if not this, what? Certainly not the electronic invoicing proposed by the opposition spokesman on finance during the budget debate. More taxes, Mr. President, more debt, and significantly reduced capital expenditure are not only extremely undesirable. Replacing the NHD budget support drawdown with any or all of them would be very poor economic decision. I therefore offer, for thoughtful consideration of the Jamaican people, the following facts, or as I prefer to think of them, some basic truths. First, it is imperative that we situate matters within the double context of Melissa-related inflationary pressures and the most recent challenge on our doorstep, that having to do with the geopolitical pressures per the US-Israel conflict with Iran, the resolution to which remains uncertain even at this time. Mr. President, there is absolutely no doubt that replacing the budgetary support provided through the $11.4 billion NHD drawdown with additional taxes would have an adverse impact on the disposable income of the vast majority of Jamaicans, all of whom would be forced to reduce consumption and or resort to additional borrowing. Beyond this obvious hardship that would be imposed, Mr. President, it is simply poor economic policy. As we all know, that a reduction in private consumption, indeed the consumption of consumers and households alike, would be quite contractionary, and as such have the effect of lowering GDP. In the most basic terms, Mr. President, reduced aggregate demand and less spending on the part of Jamaican consumers and households would mean less tax revenue in turn to the government of Jamaica. And who would that ultimately hurt? The very citizens whose interests we should seek to advance, particularly the poor and vulnerable in our country. What is more, Mr. President, just as a lowering of private consumption would be a poor economic decision, reducing government spending would have painful, deleterious, and counterproductive impact. One being the contraction of a range of government provisions, such as infrastructure maintenance, healthcare, and education, as well as vital social programs. And here we can think of such important social safety net initiatives as the Roofs program, the social pension, and the raft of PATH benefits to approximately 350,000 Jamaicans in acute need at this time. I therefore ask, Mr. President, is this either practical or reasonable? Is it good economic policy? Another negative impact that cannot be glossed over is the inevitable contraction in GDP that would ensue. For, Mr. President, it is Economics 101 that a contraction in government spending would shrink our gross domestic product because of the multiplier phenomenon, a situation we dare not court. Likewise, the kind of reflexive borrowing that characterized the 1990s is not an option to be entertained, as it would certainly compromise our country's fiscal position, thereby reducing the country's ability to spend in vital areas like healthcare, education, crime management, and infrastructure development. Just as critically, Mr. President, such a move would burden us with higher interest costs, particularly if funds are raised externally, and the members opposite should be quite apprised of this. The cost of servicing debt, particularly debt raised on the international capital market. And here, Mr. President, I need hardly remind us of the virtual debt vortex Jamaica was sucked into for the better part of 3 decades. I'm sure I'm not alone when I say it gives me the chills to mentally revisit that period, for we remember all too well the massive work and extreme sacrifice, individually and collectively, of the Jamaican people that was required to extricate ourselves from the quagmire of the debt that we got to unsustainable levels throughout the 1990s on account of policy error and policy failure. We are at a point where our fiscal affairs are in order. Let us not fritter away the gains made or trivialize the lessons learned. Enough said on that score, Mr. President. On the matter of prudent economic decision making, I put forward 2 important considerations. First, the issue of the 5-year extension has been raised by the parliamentary opposition. Given the devastation wrought by Hurricane Melissa, the devastation that has impacted our economy, it is not a stretch to appreciate that a realistic recovery time has been put by economists at between 3 and 5 years. So for those who will ask why the 5-year period, that is neither arbitrary nor pulled willy-nilly. Secondly, even if we were to take the most optimistic outlook on recovery time, it is bad economic policy to leave ourselves without any wiggle room in the event of emergencies, and that is emergencies plural, because we all can appreciate that we're subject continuously to the vagaries of exogenous shocks, hurricane, seismic events, you name it. Mr. President, 3 recent economic body blows serve as salient reminders of the importance of sound economic planning and the making of adequate provision for external shocks. I speak here of the COVID-19 pandemic, Hurricane Beryl, more recently, Hurricane Melissa itself, and I dare say the current geopolitical deterioration and instability in the Middle East caused by the US-Israel conflict with Iran. This situation in the Middle East, Mr. President, is having adverse impact on our energy bill, roughly 30% of Jamaica's total import expenditure. Let me pose another rhetorical question, therefore. Do we honestly want to leave ourselves vulnerable to external shocks without a buffer? Let me answer for every Jamaican who is, as we speak, translating the practical meaning of a catastrophic weather event into the everyday lives and living conditions. The answer, Mr. President, is a resounding no. The days of profligacy and capricious economic stewardship through hero circle decision making are over. So the opposition has really missed us with the time tunnel trip to where it all began, the profligate 1990s, Mr. President. And we are certainly not going back there, not on the watch of the Holness-led Jamaica Labour Party government. And lastly, let us be realistic about how the economic planning process unavoidably intersects with our electoral timeline or timetable in terms of electoral dynamics. Returning to the issue of vulnerability, it is sensible economic policy to give an incoming administration the flexibility afforded by a stable revenue source coming in a 5-year tranche. And an incoming administration doesn't mean, of course, that we're not in the business of that on this side, change of government. Obviously, it makes for easier planning, to say nothing of providing options in the face of unforeseen external shocks. Let us also not lose sight of an obvious but more important point. If economic circumstances improve ahead of forecast, the 5-year period could in fact be reduced. Let me wrap up this segment, Mr. President, with another important fact. Where sound economic arrangements are concerned, it is far tidier, it is far more appropriate not to remove a steady source of revenue, such as the budgetary support provided by way of the $11.4 billion NHD drawdown, in one fell swoop. Experts agree, and I dare say, common sense dictates that it is better economic policy to phase out such a substantial sum. This would give technocrats time to model and do sector consultations as to new measures which would absorb the shock in a more manageable and sustainable way. Needless to say, therefore, we can all think of examples where unrealistic taxes were not only disruptive, but were distortionary and unfairly lumped onto the backs of a particular sector or group in the society, leading to missed revenue targets or other counterproductive effects. Again, Mr. President, this is Economics 101. I now move on to what, for John and Jane Public, is the core issue, addressing Jamaica's housing gap. On the matter of housing, governments have primarily used demand-side measures to address the gap. Measures such as increasing the NHT loan ceiling and introducing an ever-expanding suite of NHT benefits, such as intergenerational mortgages, Build on Own Land initiative, and the Build 9 plan, where a cluster of members can pool resources, Mr. President, to access loans to develop a piece of property. However, what we have been finding is that the real conundrum in relation to the housing market is situated on the supply side. rests on the supply side. Before I expand on this, Mr. President, let us establish that conflating the budgetary support provided through the NHT drawdown with Jamaica's housing gap is just a conflation. It is also insensitive and even somewhat cruel because it confuses anxious would-be homeowners and plays on the minds of their emotions. It, does them a disservice as they agonize over the challenges to secure a home to call their own. Mr. President, it is wholly erroneous and misleading to claim that ending the NHT budgetary support would result in more housing units for Jamaicans. Why? For the simple reason that the NHT does not, let me emphasize, the NHT does not have, Mr. President, a funding problem. What the NHT and indeed the country itself has is a capacity or supply side problem. This was recently explained by no less a person than the Prime Minister himself in the debate in the lower house. However, it is very much in need of repetition as the conflation and creative myths persist. What do I mean by this, Mr. President? If the NHT, HAJ, the Housing Agency of Jamaica, and all the private contractors across the country were somehow rounded up and challenged to crank up construction, turn it up till it buck, with all the will in the world, they would not be able to close the 150,000 housing unit gap anytime soon. Indeed, we know this because this administration, Mr. President, is on record as producing the highest number of NHD housing starts in any period in our history. That being 31,500 units since 2016. Mind you, this is just for NHT alone. It does not include the HAJ schemes and of course the solutions delivered under the social housing program. Impressive as this is, it falls short of the demand for housing. With such an unmatched record of achievement on one hand, but a remaining gap on the other, what does this tell us, Mr. President? It tells us exactly what the Prime Minister keeps underscoring, that what Jamaica really needs, and I believe it was Senator Duncan who alluded to it in his contribution to the debate this morning or earlier today, is enterprise-level contractors. In other words, contractors with the resources and capacity to deliver somewhere in the region of 10,000 housing units in a given year. Note, Mr. President, this is not meant to disparage the work of our existing and esteemed contractors over the years. As we know, their challenges have been real. Their challenges in many instances have been persistent, particularly as it relates to the availability of skilled workers in the required numbers. Mr. President, it is merely to face the real issue before us squarely with a view to overcoming it, an issue which the Prime Minister himself has made no bones about prioritizing and which is being addressed. With this in mind, I urge us all to get used to the term enterprise-level contractors. I say no more except to note, the foregoing is yet another reason why I welcome and remain extremely optimistic about NARA, Mr. President. This bill, and in particular, this provision, Section 25, subsection 2E of the NARA bill, which makes provision, Mr. President, for low-income housing. Mr. President, it is useful to give at least one relatable example of how the supply side issue is impacting market conditions and in turn the Jamaican people, for we must never take our people from the center of the equation. Since taking office in March 2016, this administration has proudly and routinely increased the NHG loan limits and expanded the suite of products offered by the trust. Yet what have market observers been witnessing following every budget announcement? Like clockwork, Mr. President, housing prices increased by almost the exact sum of the increased NHT loan limit. As the loan limit increases from time to time, the impact is blunted by a near commensurate increase in market prices. This would not have been possible if market supply and demand were basically in equilibrium or close thereto. We all know this. Indeed, we could not want a more powerful economics lesson in demand and supply than that. So I urge my friends on that side, I urge the members opposite, let us not continue to play a game of fool up with the facts. The 11.4 billion in budget support will not deprive one Jamaican from owning a home, because the fundamental problem is one of supply. The pace at which we're able to deliver, build out, and bring housing solutions onto the market. Nonetheless, Mr. President, it is worth noting that the NHT's annual expenditure on housing, that is, expenditure on mortgages, housing starts, and housing completions, have roughly doubled each year since the PNP administration's high water mark of 24 billion in 2012. These numbers, Mr. President, make the point. In 2018, the NHE's expenditure was in the order of 28 billion. 2019, 37 billion. 2020, 42 billion. 2021, 48 billion. 2022, 47 billion. 2023, 46 billion. 2024, 30 billion. And in 2025, it was in the order of 25 billion. Mr. President, it is both appropriate and relevant that we note the record-breaking achievements of the administration as it relates to efforts to bridge the gaps in the housing market and, of course, devise and bring to market solutions and interventions, primarily those that are provided through the trust itself, to bring the dream of home ownership closer to the reach of Jamaicans. At present, Mr. President, for persons at the minimum wage level, meaning persons with an income, monthly income of less than $30,000, the interest rate that applies at the NHE is 0%. For income between 30,000 and 42,000, the NHE interest rate that applies is 2%. For the income band 42,000 to 100,000, the applicable interest rate through the NHE is 4%. And for income in excess of 100,000, the income band is 5%. And these are weekly income. So for the minimum wage earner, up to 30,000 Jamaican dollars per week, 0% interest rate applies. And you would have heard Senator Gale earlier, Mr. President, enumerating a number of the other incentives or initiatives, including what Senator Small Ferguson overlooked, the whole business of regentrification, Mr. President, in a number of our urban communities or urban centers that have been bedeviled by urban sprawl, but also have been subject to shifting population as persons have, left homes in a state of disrepair. There is the whole business of home improvement, Mr. President, and the threshold to access a home improvement grant to spruce up that dwelling has been lowered considerably, and I dare say a number of NHD borrowers and beneficiaries benefit from that particular window. Mr. President, the administration led by Andrew Holness has been particularly mindful of key categories of workers, and as such, there is concession that is in play in terms of interest rate reduction for a number of public sector workers. So when you speak of our teachers, nurses, firefighters, members of the security forces, for those persons, Mr. President, who would have had between 5 and 10 years of service, there's a 1% rate reduction on NHT loans, Mr. President. And we welcome that on this side. It is a mechanism to retain and incentivize service on the part of these groups and categories of public sector workers. 10 years or more for these groups that have 10 years or more of service, Mr. President, there's a 2% reduction in their applicable interest rate. And we would have noted, Mr. President, where these categories of workers welcome the concession. They welcome the concession, Mr. President. So for home improvement loans, persons no longer have to wait 7 years. We have reduced that from 7 years to 5 years. Mr. President, one of the supply side interventions that is also to be lauded and welcomed was that which was announced last year, where NHT borrowers, an individual borrower, is eligible for a loan up to the amount of $12 million, provided that the housing solution being acquired, whether on the open market or an NHT solution, is coming in at 14 million or less, Mr. President. That is a supply side incentive to encourage developers to bring units to market within those price bands so that the prospective borrower, that NHT contributor who the government is seeking to assist attain the dream of home ownership, can come closer to that dream by getting up to $12 million to borrow, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, I'm certain that many will agree that this is a meaningful and responsive move on the part of the government to meet the needs of aspiring homeowners across Jamaica. While big moves are in the works to address the more substantive supply side issues, particularly through such a mechanism as NARA, I am sure that many will welcome the offerings on in the marketplace, and given our track record in delivering on our undertakings, the public can rest assured that what has been for many this intractable challenge as it relates to attaining the dream of home ownership will sooner rather than later be a phenomenon of yesteryears. Mr. President, in the NARA legislation, which is really the bane of the existence of many, as you can appreciate, there are going to be government-led projects. There will also be government and private sector collaborative projects, and then there will be private sector-led projects. And what Section 25 of the NARA Act that we passed just recently, the very act in respect of which assent was given by the Governor General in recent days, 25 provides that the Cabinet may designate a project to be a strategic investment project if the Cabinet is satisfied that the sectors referred to in the subsection 1C within any of which a project should fall are as follows. And provision E in that, Mr. President, specifically, it expressly provides for low-income housing and urban development. This legislation will provide a fillip as it relates to mitigating this challenge that many aspiring homeowners have, because this piece of legislation serves as an incentive to developers and persons in the housing market, Mr. President, to invest in solutions and bring those solutions to market, benefiting from the suite of incentives and the expedition that is associated within the framework of NARA. We know that there are those who do not necessarily welcome the vistas that NARA holds. They do not welcome the kind of expeditious project implementation that will be associated with the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority, NARA. But for many aspiring homeowners, because the people who are shouting it down are the people who actually have their homes already, like Lambert Brown and others who are detractors to NARA. For the others, I have mine, which is why I'm supporting this, so that others like me can attain the dream of home ownership. Mr. President, my intervention has been very brief. I commend, Mr. President, I commend this act to draw down the 11.4 billion from the NHD and trust that all our efforts will inure to bringing the dream of home ownership closer to the reach of more Jamaicans, Mr. President. May it please you, sir.